Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video, and I am once again joined by a very special guest. You guys know him as the Mac Daddy, daddy to my YouTube channel, D-Free. What is up? Say hello to everyone listening.
That was kind of gay.
That was kind of gay. I'm sorry about that, guys.
No problem, no problem. I don't mind. I don't actually mind because they know what it is, man. They know what it is. Anyways, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a pleasure. Let's talk some Dragon Ball.
Anyway, guys, so we're going to be talking about the Tournament of Power and, you know, how they're getting really kind of close to the very ending of Dragon Ball Z. And everyone knows Gohan and how he is at the end of Dragon Ball Z. This guy is a straight-up scholar, not even participating in the tournament. You know, he's the guy getting on a ladder, carrying down like a ton of books. Like, this guy is a straight-up non-fighter at this point. But we're at the Tournament of Power right now, and it does seem like they're building him up to be somewhat of a badass. He could potentially even win this thing. We don't necessarily know right now. And my question to you, man, is do you think this is going to be Gohan's last hurrah in Dragon Ball as a whole, if they are setting it up for him to win? Because like I've said in my video with MJ just a couple days ago, I mean, they're setting him up for you know, they're setting up him fighting Universe 10 that got disappeared or, you know, erased. And then they also show him saying he's going to get a new form that no one's ever seen before. And they're having him fight Goku to basically be on par, if not kind of at least a little bit similar to Super Saiyan Blue, the same way that 17 was. It's possible. Although we don't necessarily know right now, it is possible that Gohan will win this tournament. And if so, is this the last time we see him do anything cool in this particular series, or do you think there's more stuff for him to do further down the line?
Well, see, the thing is, I'm a Gohan stan, so I'll always say no, because I always hold out hope that he'll have like another prevailing moment. But if you look at it from the context that, hey, maybe they're setting him up for that, honestly, I feel like prior to this, they had already retired his character. If you look at it and the way that things were set up for him, once again, they've done that a couple of times, right? They did it at the end of Z, well, the Cell Saga. Moving into the Buu Saga, they had retired his character for a while, and they were moving on from him. But then towards the Ultimate Gohan stuff, they decided to bring him back. But that was probably more, you know, a product of Toriyama not really knowing where to go with it. And then once again, into the Resurrection F arc, all that stuff, Gohan is retired, you know? So it makes sense that, hey, Gohan's always been very marketable, very popular, and things like that, hey, they build him back up, and he has one more prevailing moment again. But what I think would probably wind up happening is just dependent on how much information and how much, you know, how long the series continues to go, that could change, right? It could get in a situation where, hey, they want Gohan to have another prevailing moment, be another big, important factor, big piece, because the entirety of Super basically led up to something like this. We didn't see much Gohan for bits and pieces, and then we get a lot of he's not training, he's going to start training again, so on and so forth. So really, it just depends on how much continual content we get after this, in my opinion. But assuming that, like you said, they're getting really close to where it's the end of Z, they're going to have to either do something, move past that or whatever, or end the series outright. I don't know. It could very well be.
See, the one thing I think is really working in Gohan's favor for this particular tournament is that Goten and Trunks have not aged at all. Even though multiple years have gone by in the context or continuity of the show, they're still kids. And although we haven't seen it since the original Dragon Ball, but we did see it in the original Dragon Ball and even parts and, you know, sub pieces of Dragon Ball Z where they were given spotlight to children, we haven't seen that at all in Dragon Ball Super. And with those two people actually still being kids, they don't necessarily need to give them any spotlight. They can do some weird, wacky things, kid things here and there, you know, the Patafu arc, the very first episode of Dragon Ball Super and whatnot, but they're never going to give them the spotlight that they'll give an adult. And Gohan is an adult, so Gohan can, at least at this point, plot-wise, be standing amongst Goku and Vegeta and Frieza and Hit and Jiren and all these other people, and it makes sense for his character and the progression of Dragon Ball Super. So we do know, like I said, we're getting close to the end of Z. We're wondering whether or not he's actually going to become the scholar that he is, and then Goten and Trunks are actually going to be adults. Is it possible that once Goten and Trunks actually do end up growing up, that they were going to have to give some spotlight to those particular characters, and Gohan will just kind of be regulated to more of the backside? Or are those two characters just not as popular as Gohan? And even if they do grow up, Gohan still might get spotlight in the future.
That exactly what you just mentioned is what they tried to do, in Dragon Ball Z. Goku has a new son, Gohan has a new brother. These guys are new, they're interesting, they're cool. The lines, hey, Gohan and Goku are probably still more profitable, so, they move on from that. These guys not aging is great for him because, like you said, it adds a little bit more incentive to Trunks. Because in doing that and propping Gohan up in that way, new thing, but it's going to quickly lose, its interest to a lot of people unless you're whatever. And then there's also another parallel with Trunks in that he'll never be the future Trunks. And then, of course, he may not wind up being GT Trunks. Yeah, and the shorts and stuff and the scarf. Like, come on now. But he'll never be that. But I just don't think Trunks will ever overcome that. So once again, in the future, they make enough to take that, if that makes sense.
I do want to make one particular point is we can't as a community like bag on GT Trunks for actually wearing a scarf because Future Trunks in Super wore a scarf and was badass doing it. So no more bagging it.
Yeah. And then the blue hair thing. Yeah.
Plus there was that like rumor that it was Bulma's scarf from Super, which made it a lot more like emotionally impactful on the other. But whatever.
Character.
It did do a lot to separate those characters. But here's another question about Gohan. Let's say that this is his last hurrah, and I know a lot of people, yourself included, it's just like, I don't ever really want to say that. I mean, I am a Gohan fan myself. I don't necessarily ever want to say that they're going to forget about his character entirely. But as you and I have debated or discussed in multiple different videos, this has never been his character. He's never been one to be actually a fighter in any way, shape, or form. He is really someone who's always wanted to be a scholar, and now he's actually living his life at the end of Dragon Ball Z that he's always wanted to live. But in fact, they also said that that's what he wanted in the Future Trunks arc, which, as I've discussed in other videos, the way they portrayed Gohan in the Future Trunks or History of Trunks timeline is kind of a bastardization of his character entirely. They did a lot to retcon that and show that, yeah, he always did want to be a scholar with a family and all this other stuff. So he's living his dream right now in the main timeline. But is it really that difficult for us Gohan fans to sit around and go, the guy saved the multiverse, or at least the universe? Like, is that really like a bad note to go out on? Or is that just like, oh, you're not giving him his due? The guy, if he wins this tournament, he saves his entire universe and potentially, as we all know, potentially other universes as well. I would say that's a win for his character and all of his fans.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think that, so we only care about action and da-da-da-da, because there is a whole, pocky action, and I can respect that and appreciate that, or maybe it's a younger audience or whatever. Literally, the very first episode he's in ever, saying he wants to do that.
Not the first episode, but one of the very first episodes. Like when he first meets, basically the first.
When he first meets, was there an episode before that, or was that not the first episode of Z?
There was. The very first episode of Z is where he's being chased by the tiger, and it's supposed to kind of parallel the beginning of Dragon Ball where Goku is messing with the same saber-toothed tiger. And
first, like, definitive thing he says, right? It's like, I want to be a scholar.
Yeah. And this is a situation where he is completely devoid and free of his mother's influence. Like, she's not staring down his neck. Like, this is what he says, right? And I just personally think, although it would be kind of a shame, and I feel like it would be a shame because even though this arc, at least in my opinion, has been a creative cornerstone for Dragon Ball Super, I don't think it has ever been as good as it is right now. Emotionally compelling, and the story, just character-centric episodes, everything about this arc has been really good, and it has no sign of stopping anytime soon. I'm very pleased with it. Personally, I think that when you get Gohan away from it, even if he does win the tournament, save the universe, save the multiverse, or whatever, there's no indication that Super is ever going to stop anytime soon, even after this arc. So it is kind of a concern to sit there and go, well, he did have this huge win, but at the same time, that's the last we're ever going to see of him. And this show can go on for another 100, 150 episodes, and we don't know. So we're never going to see Gohan again. He's never going to do anything again. He's just going to be a scholar. I think that's a gut punch for a lot of the fans.
Yeah, and that's why I said I don't think it'll be the end of the character. And it's dependent on how long the series actually goes. Because at some point, it's cool and all, but at some point they're just kind of hurting their own pockets, right? It's like you have this really, really cool, popular character that's totally profitable in everything he does. Why are you just kind of keep him on the sidelines? Which is exactly why Trunks came back, right? So I think that's part of it too. And of course, I think the longer the series goes without the character is not a good thing as far as the fans go, like you said. And that's why, like, I had issues with the Universe 6 tournament. Like, it was fun, but he couldn't have at least been a spectator and had a few drop lines. Like, maybe some of that comes down to Masako Nozawa and being able to voice all those characters. Because, for example, the same thing happened to Goten in the Goku Black arc. He just simply didn't exist, even though Trunks and the Pilaf gang were in every episode. So that's a little different, but it could be a bad thing. I don't know.
I agree. And look, a lot of this does come down to real world applications, real world situations where, yeah, she's getting up there in age, and you can imagine that it does start to drain on her to voice all these different characters, how many hours they actually put into all this stuff, and that's why they're writing certain people out, and we can't really get a legitimate arc now. We've never had one outside of, I guess, the first arc of Dragon Ball Super, where we had her voicing Goten, Gohan, and Goku, but never in the same episode and never really like interacting with each other at the same time. It's really it's a shame, really. But I personally, that's one of the other reasons I think that, just logistically, we're never really going to see him go much further than where he's going right now. Is he might end up winning this tournament. He might save the day. But can we, as Gohan fans, I think the last question here is, like, as Gohan fans, can we accept that? Like, if this is the last thing he ever does, is it good enough?
I can accept it as long as the show doesn't run for another 100 episodes. Okay? I can accept it if the show runs for another 20 episodes, and it's like, fine. It ends on a good note. He does something really definitive and profound. And I would even more so accept it if it ended after he did that, right? But, like, the longer out we go, the more it's kind of like, okay, where is he at? Yeah.
You wouldn't take like a Cell Games and then get directly into the Majin Buu saga where it's just like 90 episodes in, and just like, what has Gohan done?
We'll see. And then another thing is too, they do this thing, like I said, and it could be real world, but they make it to a point where it's like, he's a scholar, he can't be a spectator either. He has to be one of the two. Right? Because even when they were just messing around at Trunks' at a Bulma's place when Trunks was there, future Trunks, Gohan didn't come in until the end of the arc. And if they were like brainstorming and Gohan was gone the entire time, but he could have actually been there. You could have at least left his character at Capsule Corp while these guys went to Trunks' timeline. And then they came back, he could have been there too.
It did work on a very minuscule level. It did work because Gohan did feel some guilt. They even showed that in the manga one way. It's like he didn't, if Trunks were to have told him, he felt like Gohan might find some guilt in the situation, because that's just who Gohan is. Like, Gohan cannot take any emotional stress on himself. Like, he puts it all on his back, no matter what it is or whether or not it's his fault. Like, he has to carry that. So that's one of the reasons I'm really excited to see how he performs in this tournament. Is the guy just erased an entire universe. Like, he secured like an entire universe's destruction with his win against Universe 10. So he's carrying that on his shoulders right now, and he is. So hopefully that comes back in a big way going forward. But I agree with you. Like, if this show goes on for another 100 episodes, then it might get a little bit what's going on here. But look, Dragon Ball Super is a huge runaway success. It might go on for another 100, 150, 200 episodes. We don't know.
And it's not his last hurrah. It's that simple. Because I'm sure that they will honor my sentiments.
if the toy sales, and I assure you, if he does end up winning this next tournament, like, Gohan will become a viable property again. You'll see him in Dokkan, you'll see him in Heroes.
That would be very smart, bro, because it's like Vegeta and Goku will always be transcendently popular, but then you have another character like that's always kind of been there, been built up, etc. And it's like these guys still do their normal sales, right? And then another one just explodes with more sales. So that would be very smart. in all honesty.
Exactly. So, guys, I want everyone to go down to the description section below and hit that link to go subscribe to Defree's channel if you haven't already. The guy makes some really awesome content, daily content, multiple videos daily. So please make sure to go check that out.
And I want to say really quick before we get out of here, if you guys are watching this on my channel, Mark's will be in the description, so check that out.
This video
Subscribe
will be
to
on
him.
his channel in a couple days after it posts on mine. But guys, with that being said, please make sure to like, comment, and to subscribe onto this video, no matter where you're watching it, my channel or Donnie's channel. And please make sure to hit that bell on the description button or right next to it to notify you every single time we upload. But with that being said, guys, I hope everyone has a good day. It's been real.
Peace out.